Hello everyone, thanks for watching. In this presentation I will talk about the paper that I wrote together with Michael Hameleers, Shattering Populists Rhetoric with Satire at Election Times. This paper deals with the study that we did on the effects that one satire broadcast had during the 2017 Dutch elections. More specifically, it was an episode about the Dutch populist politician Geert Wilders and how he makes many promises, is very critical, but never really has any solutions himself. What we know from the existing research is that very often journalistic attention has been found to be a driver of populist success. And the reason is probably that journalists find it very difficult to report too critically about populists. On the one hand, they are afraid to be called, well, you're just a left-wing, liberal, fake news media. But also, the weak spot of populist politicians is that they often are very critical towards other political actors and towards problems in society, but they don't really have the solutions to those problems themselves either. And that is difficult to report for traditional journalists because they need to report things that are there, that are factually observable, whereas those things, the lack of solutions is not something that is easily factually present. What we then study is, well, is it easier, is it more effective if satirists address this weak spot of populist parties? And the reason why we expect satirists might be able to do this is because they have an equal level playing field. They follow a similar kind of rhetoric as populist politicians. Simple, short and dramatic messages are very characteristic for both of them. So we expect in the current post-truth era that satirists might hold populist politicians accountable. First of all, because they don't have the journalistic norms to be objective and to focus on truthfulness, but also because they very often use textual interplay between things that are being said and that is actually not said. So being critical, but don't have any solutions themselves. That is a key characteristic of normal satirical language. And finally, they can be very explicit in their criticism. That does not need to be misinterpreted. So we focus on three dimensions of support for this populist party: the propensity to vote for it, the attitude towards the party leader, as in any populist party, the party leader is a very central figure, and thirdly, the ability to handle the issue of which it is the issue owner, of course, immigration. What we are mostly interested in is not only the main effect, but particularly whether satire can break through the echo chambers, which so often are found in political communication due to selective exposure or due to motivated reasoning. And we expect that satire can be more effective under those circumstances to also influence the people who will likely vote for this populist party. First of all, because many people consume this satire for entertainment reasons and not for political motivations. Secondly, people are often, at least research finds, transported into the narrative of political satire, and therefore they are not really willing to critically approach it, but also the ability to be critical towards the political satire is often lacking because processing humor takes so many cognitive resources that not enough resources remain to be critical towards the message. And finally, humor, laughter may release tension. So if the message would be non-humorous, coming from a normal media, then people might be very defensive and respond as being attacked by an enemy. But satire can make the message feel a little bit more soft, and that's why people might be able to process and accept it more easily. So we expect the strongest effect on the people who are likely to vote for the populist party, which are people who straightforwardly indicated that they would like to vote for the PVV, this populist party, as well as politically cynical people. People who think that the political system is not working well, that mainstream populist, normal political actors don't do their jobs well, and that potentially populist might be a solution to this. If the satire show is critical towards these populist actors, it might especially be those people who are then disappointed into the populist politicians. What did we do concretely? We did a 4-wave panel survey, so asking the same questions over and over again, and did this in the lead up to the parliamentary elections of 2017. We were very lucky that between wave 2 and wave 3, Zondag met Lubach, the most popular Dutch satire show, featured a clip, Wilders Concrete, in which he asked the question, well, why does this populist party never have any solution themselves? And this program was watched by 1 million viewers on TV, but also afterwards went viral online. And that's why you could say it reached a large proportion of the Dutch population. Like I said, this satire broadcast was very critical towards the PVV and its leader Geert Wilders, and it mainly went through all the different resources to find information about this party and how it would like to solve the problems that it addresses. It went through the party program, through voting advice applications, the comments that this politician made on Twitter, the interviews he gave, what he has said on Parliament, but it never really becomes clear how he wants to solve any of the problems that he always wants to address publicly. So we measured how often people watched this show and categorized people in non-viewers and likely viewers. We measured the dependent variables in rather straightforward ways. Moderators, so because it was a panel wave survey, we could use the first 2 waves to determine which people were likely to vote for the PVV, and we also had a regular scale of political cynicism in there. Analysis used straightforward number of control variables, also including the party that people voted for in the previous national election, but more importantly, we used lag-dependent variables, so we could actually see how people changed between wave 2 and wave 3, so between the moment that this satire episode was broadcast and afterwards. What did we find? First, the main effects. Indeed, a negative effect on the probability to vote, negative and significant. Similarly, negative and significant effect on party leader attitude, as well as on the issue owner capability. People who watched this satire show were more likely to say that this party is not able to handle this issue of immigration well, compared to the people who don't watch this satire show. Then, looking at the moderation effects, here on the left side we see the people who did never intend to vote for this populist party. They were not affected by the satire episode regarding their vote intentions. Didn't change, because they were never really likely to vote for it. So maybe it couldn't get less, but could also be that simply they were not affected by this satire show. What we see on the right side of the graph is the people who were intending to vote for the populist party. And there we find an effect, logically, because they were intending to vote for it, so this likelihood could decrease further. Here you find this effect. People who watched the satire show were more likely than those who did not watch the satire show to become less likely to vote for the PVV, the populist party. We do not find this effect for the party leader attitude, as well as not on the issue owner capability. Then looking at the moderations by political cynicism, this is the effect that watching the satire show has on the propensity to vote. And what you see is that this effect only reaches significance in a negative direction for the people who were more than average politically cynical. There the effect becomes negative. So it are mostly the people who were politically cynical that became less likely to vote for the PVV. Again, this effect was not found, this interaction effect was not found for party leader attitude, nor for issue owner capability. Then we were wondering, did it have an actual effect on the election outcome? We find a marginally significant effect on the real vote choice of people, so that is wave 4 of the panel survey. And we were then wondering, well, which causal path could potentially explain the effect from satire exposure to actual vote choice. We run structural equation modeling for that. First step was just to see, well, can we replicate the effects that we showed before, so on the probability to vote, the party leader attitude, and issue owner capability. Yes, this model of course finds the same effects. Most interestingly, what does it do to the vote that's being casted on the PVV or not in election? And there we find a significant indirect effect of satire consumption on the probability to vote for this populist party, eventually onto the vote that people casted in this election. This indirect effect did not exist for party leader attitude and also not for issue owner capability. So regarding the moderation effects that we found before, those actually apply to the probability to vote. So it indeed seems that the people who are likely to vote for the populist party will be more unlikely to vote for the party eventually, due to the satire consumption. This indirect effect was indeed found to be significant using Bayesian statistics. Coming to the conclusion, we find that this satire episode, which critically held the populist party accountable, had an effect under real-life circumstances on the election outcome. The effects were most strong for the people who were likely to vote for the PVV, and those people were most politically cynical, probably because the show was able to persuade these people most that populists don't have solutions to the problems in society either. The question then is, well, how much could these effects be dependent on the Dutch multi-party system, on the less fragmented media system in the Netherlands? These are questions you should look at for future research, but it could be, of course, that in a multi-party system with multiple parties that people could vote for, there's less polarization and people are more likely to adjust their vote intentions. And finally, I want to emphasize how lucky we were with the empirical design. We just inserted this question into the panel survey without knowing that this episode would come. Then this episode came and we could prove these important democratic effects of political satire. But if the broadcast would not be there, we could also not have found these effects. So, thank you very much for your attention. I want a last note to say that this paper will be forthcoming soon in the Journal of Communication. There you will find it and read more information about it. Thank you very much.
Geert, #hoe dan?